Yes. All right. If you remember, the Rebbe is telling us some very, 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 very interesting facts that we would never know, and that they're hinted at and taught to us by this Torah portion of this week about the Mashiach. As we've said many, many, many times, Mashiach is the goal of Judaism. And Mashiach will reveal the creator of the universe in every detail of the creation. Every human being will feel meaningful. Every human being will feel important. Every human being will know that they're not alone. No such thing as being alone. Every creation in the world is being created by God all the time and for a purpose. And that's what the Torah is. But until then, there's a lot of bad things in the world, a lot of selfishness, a lot of disappointments, a lot of frustration, a lot of evil, death, destruction, lies, deception, right? The world is filled with bad, the opposite of life, the opposite of happiness, the opposite of meaning. The world is filled with it to the point where that's almost the whole thing. That's the whole business, is the world. So it's no wonder that all the other religions say the world is basically not such a good place, terrible place. You got to get out of here and get to heaven. And that heaven is the real, that's the reward, that's the story, that's the meaning, that's everything with it. And Judaism says heaven, of course, does exist, yes, but don't get distracted. Heaven is just a distraction. This world is really the best. What about all the terrible stuff in it? Don't worry, there's really, the fact is God is creating this world for something good, and all the terrible things are also being created for a purpose. And that's what Mashiach will show. And that's why Mashiach, it says that he'll suffer, and why Mashiach is called a Metzora. He is called a leper. Okay, now where do we get up to now? Oh, I think we did this. So we said that really the fact of the matter is, Alpizeh, according to this, move on, we can understand. Alpizeh, we can understand, according to this, we can understand the kesher, the connection, the shaychas, and the relation between Tazria Metzora Geula, which is Tazria, is giving seed. That's the redemption, the future redemption. Like we said, like a seed pops up, reveals all the potential that's in the seed and the ground. And Metzora is the leper. That's exile. The Inyan and the Goyim, this thing of, and also, if you look at Parshas Tazria, which is a really good thing, right? Giving seed. Only the beginning talks about giving seed and this wonderful thing, and that's the name of it. But if you look after the first paragraph, it just talks about all these plagues, these terrible things that come on people. There's this leprosy in your hair, and leprosy in your body, and leprosy in your clothes, leprosy. And Metzora, which is a bad thing, that's talking about the exile. But if you look past the first paragraph, or even the first sentence, it's just talking about how it becomes pure and clear, right? Healed. So the name of this, Tazria, is good, but the content is really bad. And here the name is bad, but the content is really good. That's the whole idea of the Negayim, the leprosy, which is talked about in Parshas Tazria, and the good, and the purification, which is found in the parsha, which is called Metzora, the purification, which is in the Torah portion, which is a bad name. Kevin said, why is this all mixed up like this? Why? Says the Rebbe like this: the fact of the matter, the whole business is good. But Kevin said, since the redemption is not really something in itself, this future redemption, it's not going to be that the world is going to stop. Right? Judaism says, what is the goal of life? Not that the whole world will stop and will get out of the world. The world is bad. Let it just like like you have a rocket ship. You have the lower levels, the jettison them and them off. They just fall back down. No, that's not what the world is about. That's not what life is about. That's not what the whole creation is about. This whole world, as bad and as evil as it is, this world will not be destroyed. It's not a thing on its own, and the redemption is a separate thing on its own. No. What we're doing in this world is to reveal the true meaning of exile. Maybe let me give you a small example. I don't know if this is a good example, but I'll give you the example anyway. A person he has a wife that yells at him, screams at him, does bad things to him all the time, drives him crazy. Worst wife in the world. She doesn't cook for him. She screams at him. She yells at his parents and everything like that. So he says, that's what I want a divorce. The rabbi says, listen, maybe go to a marriage counselor. He goes to a marriage counselor, says, yeah, you got every word. Look, I got pictures. Look at this videos. I got a video camera. Look how she throws things at me and she screams at me. He says this. The guy says, tell me, have you ever praised your wife? He says, praise her for what? She's a good shot. She can throw things at me. What are you talking about? Praising her for what? He says, praise her. Tell something about, that she looks good today. She's a very intelligent person. That you're happy you got married to her. That's a lie. I'm not happy. Try it. You'll see it's not a lie. He goes home. She starts throwing things at him. He says, I'm really happy that I got married to. I see that I've been acting not right. That's why you're acting. She says, what are you crazy? You're out of your mind. Then she throws more things. The next day, she says, why'd you say those things to me? Why'd you say? Because it's true. So all of a sudden, she starts to act nice to him. All of a sudden, she teaches him differently. She sees that it's true. Oh, and what does it mean? She was just reflecting his negative attitude. He came home from work every day. He's aggravated. He's mean. He's cruel. He's this. So she just reflected it. He never says a good word to her. He's always in. The same thing with the world. Because we're treating the world in such a negative, terrible way. So that's what the Rebbe is saying. Therefore, the world, we don't see the good in the world. And in fact, we bring out the bad in every situation. So the fact of the matter is that the world, it's created by God. So it's really, really very good. Now, I'm not coming to try to explain the Holocaust and it's all because of us. There are things which we'll never understand, which only Mashiach will explain to us. I'm just talking about what the Rebbe is saying now. The Rebbe is saying our purpose is to reveal the good in the world. That all these bad things that are here are in order to tell us to fix ourselves up. So first of all, there has to be, therefore we have to have first of all, the preparation. Ishat kitazriya v'yolda zachar. First of all, the woman, she gives birth. This hints at the whole time that we're in exile. Tazriya, we have to plant. We have to do the work. But by means of this, there comes the redemption. Gula miti v'shlema. That there's not after it any exile. Right, a person that plants, just think about it 1 second. If you never saw a farmer in your life, never saw a whatever it is, someone who grows wheat, right? You see a guy in the field who's got a beautiful field, and he goes in the field and he plows the whole thing up, cuts the whole thing up. I think the guy's a maniac. He had a nice field, and you could run in it, you could play. Now you can't do anything. There's all these holes and the trenches and things like that. What's the purpose? And then you think, oh, well, no, let's see, maybe he's got a plan. He comes out and he's got a whole big thing of beautiful seeds that he could crush these seeds up and make bread. And he starts scattering these seeds out, throws them in the ground and buries them. The guy is a maniac. What is he doing? First he wrecked his field. Now he's wrecking up all of his seeds. He could make flour out of that. He could make bread. But little does he know that because he's wrecked up the ground and because he's thrown these seeds away and wasted them, that it's going to grow up into these beautiful, right? The wheat field with and each stalk has on it, I don't know, 100 grains in it. Who knows? Right? Who would dream of it? The same thing now we're in the exile. We're just planting. We're planting. And from this planting, it says gives birth to a male. That comes the idea of what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to work. But Parshas Tazriya, giving seed, that's talking about the redemption. And afterwards, what it talks, that's how it starts off. But all of a sudden, it starts talking about these exile things, gullus. Why? Because all of these, the diseases and the leprosy and the terrible things really the fact is they come from very tremendously high lights of God. Therefore, even they're terrible, and this world is terrible, but really these are high blessings from God. We can't see them. Therefore, it comes down. When it comes down, it's only external. It's drawn down in a future, right? Only on the external. It's just coming as a sign to tell us there's something wrong. That's in Parshas Tazria. In Parshas Metzora, so it talks about how to cure these blemishes that appeared on our skin in the previous portion. That's called the redemption. Since they're purifying this leprosy, this is by means of revealing the true reason for the plagues. Okay, so how does it start off? How does it start off? Right, it starts off that, let's say, like we said, the person who's planting the seeds. First of all, you have to work. After he works, he's plowed the seed and he planted. What happened? It's a big loss. He lost everything. Put all of his seeds on the ground. The whole thing is gone. He hasn't got any grains to grind up his bread with. His field is all messed up. Right. So first of all, he started up with work. That's Tazria. Then after that, there's all the bad things that come up. And maybe there's a drought, and maybe there's and then come the animals and the otters or whatever, and they eat up his seeds, and he's got all these problems and the bad things. But he says, but if he wouldn't have had a field and he wouldn't have grown at all, then there wouldn't be all these problems. And then afterwards, after all these problems, so that's Parshas Tazria. Tazria means that he worked hard, and what did he get? All the bad stuff came out. Parshas Metzora, that talks about how you cure it. How you're curing it, that all these bad things, in the end, it's going to be worthwhile. It's going to be worthwhile. If it was easy to grow seeds, then he wouldn't have a job, right? It wouldn't. Everybody would grow seeds. It would be automatic. No, he's valuable because he's doing something very difficult. He's plowing the ground. He's making the investment. He's putting it in. But then all of a sudden, that's us working in the exile, and we're working hard. We're planting, and there's difficulties inside of us, our own personality things, and that's what the leprosy comes out on our skin. But after we fix it up, then that means, what did we do? That's the redemption. That's the redemption. This is the Metzora. This is the leper in the good way. It took the bad things and transformed it to good. That's why the Mashiach is called a leper. In a way that you can actually transform the bad things and realize that they were really good, that there's going to be to the point where there won't be any more bad. It'll be a redemption, that there's no exile afterwards. We can add on that that's the attachment, that's the connection between the beginning of the Parsha and Mincha of the Shabbos. Okay, that's what it says, Achrei Mot Kedoshim, Achrei Mot. This is the next week we're going to be learning, and we're going to read it in the Mincha of Shabbat. It's also two parshas together, after the death and holiness. It starts off talking about after the death of the two sons of Aaron, and then it talks about being holy. After the death, this is the thing we talked about, death. We talked about before. This is the thing of the Metzora. Too much light, too much lights. We can't accept the lights too much. It comes out to be, we said, leprosy on the external. It reveals the bad inside of us. And then afterwards, then it comes Meshuv, comes back down to be holy in this world. This means that what's going to be high, holy, and coming back into this world. None of a view, they had too much holiness, their souls went out of the body. The goal of life is that we're going to realize that the body, the physical body that gave us so much trouble and difficulty, that really that was the holiest thing. By means of the body itself. When we purify everything, then we'll see that the whole world, human body included, that the soul will actually get, nowadays, the body is enlivened by the soul. A person dies, his soul goes away, our body rots. In the future, it's going to be the opposite. The body, which really had the more holiness than the soul, it will provide nourishment for the soul. That's why there's going to be the raising of the dead. The souls are going to come into the bodies. This is the idea of joining Ratzav V'Shov, like we said, the lights, the highest lights, which make us go out of ourselves, and the being in the world, which is the essence of God, which joins everything together. This was joined by, how can you join the soul and the body together? They're two opposites, and reveal that the body is really higher. It has to be a third level, which is higher than both of them. And that's Parshas Kadoshim. That's Achrei Mot. After, what happens after death? After death, there will be, eventually, the soul goes up to the heaven, but then afterwards, the soul is going to come back down. How? By means of holiness. That in holiness is talking about Kadoshim to you. You have to be holy because I'm holy. That when the Jewish people are in this physical world, that then it's possible for them to be holy, because holiness can only come when you make your own free will in this world. That's a different type of a holiness than the angels, because the angels are also holy, but not because of their free will, because they're just so naturally close to God. The angels don't make God happy. The Jewish people make God happy, and eventually the whole world will be that way. That's what's called being holy. That's why the temple was called holy, because you used your free will to serve God. And by means of this the highest holiness that can possibly be, the highest level of holiness of God, like the rabbis say, Yochel Kamoni. It says, Kadoshim to you, Ki Ani Kadosh, because you should be holy because I am holy. You can be holy like me. And that's what it says, Yochel Kamoni B'nichuta. You can be holy like I am holy. That each and every Jew is able to be like, so to speak, like God. That's why the Jews are called the sons of God. This is also stressed in the name of the Mashiach. The name of the Mashiach is called, he's the Redeemer. He'll be called Metzora. He'll be called the Metzora. And the Rebbe is going to talk about this later, that's the word Gola. Gola means exile. And the word Geula means redemption. And the only difference between the two words, here we have it. Where was it before we had this here? Here we had Gola, Galut, and Geula. He doesn't say Gola. The word Gola, it doesn't rev it, bring it here. It's the same exact letters. It's just the word Geula has an aleph in it. If you take out the aleph, you have Gola. Gola means exile. Gola Shechina Imanim Labavel Gola. Gola means exile. And putting the aleph in means redemption. In other words, you don't have to change the world. You don't have to destroy the world. You don't have to go up to heaven. Everybody, all you have to do is just put the aleph in the world. A little bit of aleph is for light, or ahava, emunah. All these things start with aleph. All we have to do is just look at the world a little bit differently, and everything turns around. Like the example I gave with the man and his wife. It says this is right. This is even more stressed by the name of the Mashiach. The Mashiach is called a leper. He's the leper of Beis Rabbi. The Yosef Beni Ani V'Sovel Chaloim, that he says he sits among the poor people and he suffers diseases. He says Menugaimu Namin Menuga, that he is blighted and what is it, and smitten. That the Mashiach is found in the world in time and in the place of exile. B'matzav shel galut, in a place of exile. Shesova chaloyim galus. That what's the idea of the Mashiach? The Mashiach, he suffers because everybody doesn't see God. Right? People twist the Torah. People don't do the commandments. The Mashiach suffers terribly. He wants people to. It's like a mother and a father. I don't know if any of you people have children, but if you do have children, you know what it means. God forbid, if one of your children is sick. Right? It drives you crazy. Or if your children, God forbid, a person has children that they sit in prison or whatever. There's situations like this. The parents, it tears your heart apart. It says, well, by Mashiach, every single Jew, especially, and every single human being, as long as there's suffering in the world, that's his suffering. And what is suffering? Ignorance. A person is in ignorance. Like it says in the Gemara, Omer Rab, Imin Chayahi Kagon Rabbeinu HaKodesh. And the Gemara says, Rav said, if the Mashiach is now among those people who are alive, he'll be like Rabbeinu HaKodesh. If the Mashiach is among those who have already died, it'll be someone like Daniel. This is also another one of the proofs that the Mashiach can come from the dead. If it'll be like Rabbeinu HaKodesh. If the Mashiach is someone from alive, it'll be like Rabbeinu HaKodesh. Who is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi? If Mashiach Ma'oto Shechayim Nachshav, if the Mashiach is like will come from someone who is like those who are alive now, then certainly it'll be Rabbeinu HaKodesh. Why? Why Rabbeinu HaKodesh? Because he was a very holy person. He knew the whole Torah. He was the one that arranged the Mishnah. But Sovel Chalaim, he suffered terribly. The Chassid Gomer Hoya, but nevertheless, he was a total Chassid. He accepted it. He realized that this is all from God. Even though he was such a holy person, he didn't deserve it. He said, don't worry. For God has his reasons. He knows what's going on. This is for the good. Umetzape b'kotzer ruach, and that he's waiting every single instant. The Mashiach is waiting every instant to be revealed from the concealment in the time of exile. The Melech HaMashiach, he will redeem all of the Jewish people, just like Moses redeemed all the Jews back in Egypt, from Egypt. The Melech HaMashiach will redeem all of the Jewish people with a total redemption, that there won't be any more confusion or ignorance or suffering or exile. Like the Rambam says, Yamud Melech B'Beis David, says he will stand up right in the end of the chapter. So that we know now is the whole secret of Mitzorah and why there has to be bad in the world, why the Mashiach is called the person that suffers, why is what's the solution of it. We'll continue this also tomorrow. We're going to connect this with Pirkei Avot, right? Pirkei Avot. But now let's learn a Yom Yom. Yom Yom. Take the Yom Yom. 1 second. Yom Yom, very good. No, we don't want Cholent. Here we have the Yom Yom. My grandfather, this was the Rebbe Marash, the fourth Rebbe. These are sayings by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, the sixth Lubavitcher Rebbe. My grandfather, that was the Rebbe Shmuel. He was the fourth Rebbe of Chabad. He was born today. He was born. Now, you know, we do Sfirat HaOmer, and Sfirat HaOmer every day has a different aspect of godliness that's given to it. So it says, when the Rebbe Marash was 7 years old, he was tested in his studies by his father, who was the third Rebbe of Chabad, called the Tzemach Tzedek. He did so well that his teacher was tremendously impressed. But so he had a teacher, and his grandfather and his father, the Tzemach Tzedek, came and tested him in front of his teacher. He said that he knew it so well. He was only 7 years old. He was unable to restrain himself. The teacher said, what do you say? Look at this. Isn't he marvelous? Isn't he amazing? The Tzemach said, what do you want? He's Tiferet should be Tiferet. What's amazing, that Tiferet should be Tiferet as well. Okay, Tiferet should be Tiferet. There's 7 emotional aspects of God, and each one of them is consists of 7 emotional aspects. There's 7 emotional aspects, and each one of them is also made up of 7. So altogether, you have 49. So one of these aspects is called beauty, Tiferet. So Tiferet in it has Tiferet, beauty expressed in a kind way, in a severe way, but then there's beauty expressed in a beautiful way. That's Tiferet Shabbat Tiferet. And that's the day that this Rebbe Marash was born. So he said he's beauty of the beauty. Right? What do you want? Also, the Torah is also called beauty. So he said that he knows the Torah well. He is beautiful, and the Torah is beautiful, and he expressed it beautifully. He said, what are you surprised for? That's when he was born. That's his nature. As we'll talk about more, God willing, today, God willing, 3 o'clock, we'll learn Pirkei Avot. Have a good day with Mashiach Now. Thank you for bearing with all these the difficulties, and in the end, it came out to be sweet, just like the whole exile will come out to be something very sweet as well. Shalom uvracha. Shalom, shalom.